Let's rank every player in fantasy football for the rest of this season so you know who to prioritize. Let's start with running backs here. The S tier is going to be Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey. Both guys averaging 25.7 and 25.8 points per game. JT had 8 points this last week. CMC, obviously, CMC is actually playing. I'm recording this during Monday Night Football. He currently has 10 points. I need 24 to not get chopped from him. So either yay Avery or rip in the chat. We'll see how it goes. No touchdowns yet for him. Okay, so these guys are the top of the running back tiers. The A tier is going to be Bijan, Devon Achane, and Jahmyr Gibbs. All three of them are averaging 20 points per game or more. They're the only other three backs that are averaging 20 points per game or more. Jahmyr Gibbs obviously brought his points per game metric up quite a bit this week after having 55 points. I mean, this is just what Jahmyr Gibbs is capable of, right? And so he's the running back 3 on the year now. 38, 19, and 55 points in the last 3 games for Jahmyr Gibbs. Like he's at the top of the A tier with Bijan and then Devon Achane, of course. Again, all 3 of these guys have been absolutely dynamite for you. And they've separated themselves from the guys in the B tier, in my opinion. Josh Jacobs, who we expect to get back from injury. They worked him out before the game last week. I expect him to be healthy the rest of the year. And so that's kind of what I think. He's limited in practice as of today, which is Monday. And so I would think that Josh Jacobs is going to be back and playing. James Cook had a 19, 20-point game this week as well. He's solidified himself as that mid-running back 1. He's currently the running back 6 right now. He had 21 points. He's had 20 and 21 in his last 2 games, and obviously the touchdowns are a big part of that with James Cook, but he still deserves to be up here by far. And then my hot take here, I guess it's a hot take because I have Bucky Irving ranked much higher than everybody else rest of the season. I have him as my running back 8. When he was healthy, he was averaging 18 points a game in this offense, and I realized that was over a 4-game sample size, getting all the work possible. They've basically been like, hey, Rachaad White, take this work, and then they're like, okay, actually, you suck. Let's go to Sean Tucker, and then they're like, Sean Tucker's actually not that good either. And so Bucky, obviously, the stuff has been weird. He hasn't played since week 4, but now he's back. He's practicing all week. He's expected to play this week. And in my opinion, he's a top 8 running back rest of the season. I think Bucky Irving is going to be on an offense now potentially without Baker Mayfield for a week or 2. I think he's going to be heavily leaned upon. I think he's full go. I think he's healthy. I personally am very high on Bucky Irving rest of the season. I thought he's been a buy for quite a while here. So I'm going to put him in the B tier with the rest of these guys because in my opinion, he is a tier above the guys here in the C tier. This is a big C tier now, but we'll start at the top here with the Williams twins. Kyren Williams, obviously averaging 15.6 points per game this year, is the running back 9 on the year so far, and he's just steady, consistent. You just know what you're getting. He's a low-end running back 1. He always has been. Like it's just, you know what you're getting. Javonte, another week where he was efficient, which honestly the efficiency is a good thing from an NFL standpoint, from a player standpoint, where he had 4.35 yards per carry in this game. But it's his 3rd straight week where he's been over 4.2 yards per carry and not scored a touchdown, and it's resulted in 7, 10, and 12-point games. Now, the nice thing is Javonte Williams isn't killing you in your flex spot because he's scoring you 10 to 12 points when he's not scoring any touchdowns. So with the touchdowns, you expect that to go up to 18 to 20 points on a good week. And then that's obviously, running back 1 upside for Javonte Williams. Rico Dowdle is going to be next. And Rico, obviously, again, playing right now as I speak, he has 3 points after having 15 points each of the last 2 weeks. So we've kind of seen him come back down to earth after having like a bunch of consecutive 30-point games earlier this year. But Rico Dowdle, right now in this game is averaging 4.75 yards per carry. At this point, he hasn't really gotten much work. And again, I'm not moving him regardless of what happens in this game because he's a running back 1 for me rest of the season. Saquon Barkley, he's there as well. 14.8 points per game this year for Saquon Barkley, who is still a running back 1 in the year, the running back 12. It's exactly where I have him ranked. I just think we know what he is at this point. Ashton Genty is the running back 10 on the year. You could argue that Genty, in fact, I'll move Genty up. Genty, I'm going to put right there with Javonte. It's just, again, all these guys are in the same tier. You can put them anywhere from 9 to 15, and I'm fine with it. But I really do lean Genty kind of in a tier above these guys, if I'm being honest. And so, Derrick Henry, 14.5 points per game so far this year. He's a high-end running back, too, right now. The snap share is much lower than almost everybody in this tier. But he's been good recently, and the Ravens have won a lot of games now, and they're starting. They actually lead the AFC North. Derrick Henry is going to be very involved there. He's going to continue to get red zone usage, and so he's looking good rest of the season. His rest of the season schedule is also a little bit more favorable. And then I'm going to put Amari and Hampton in this tier. Actually, I don't know. I just can't decide where to put Hampton. You can let me know how high you are on Hampton, but when he was healthy, averaging 15.5 points per game, and that includes the games where he didn't really get a lot of run. And so when he was, his last 3 games where he was healthy, he was really, really solid. And I think that is going to be more of what you see from Amari Hampton here at the end of the year. I think he's going to get a ton of work. Amarian Hampton in the 3 games before he got injured, 24, 27, and 13 points. Obviously, he left that Washington game early. And so he was really, really starting to turn it on. I think he's going to be very good down the stretch, and I am unlocking him in the Flock League again this week. The D tier, Travis Etienne, it looks like he's got the job there for now. Bashal Tootin, he's kind of, fending him off. I ranked him high because, again, he's averaging 15 points per game this year. He's the running back 11. It was just a matter of whether or not Tootin was going to take his carries, and it just doesn't look like he's going to. I'm going to keep ETN here for now. Chase Brown has up to 13.5 points per game. He's running back 16 on the year. He's been solid. Quinshon Judkins, obviously, teams are starting more or less to figure that out. I'll have Travion ahead of Quinshon. They're in the same tier. Again, move these guys in the tier any way you want, but Quinshon, Breece Hall will round out this tier with Travion Henderson. Travion did get the majority of the work. The problem with Henderson continues to be his efficiency is very low. 3.6 yards per carry in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals, where his snap share did go down. He got 65% snaps in this game. Still would be his highest mark in the first 8 weeks playing with Ramondre. So there's clearly been a little bit of a changing of the guard here. But 11 points is a little bit more modest than what you'd expect from Travion, I think, down the stretch. I think that's more or less what to expect with the touchdown sprinkled in here or there. Still had 4 targets in this game. Again, still getting the majority of the snaps here. But I would have thought against Cincinnati's defense, the fact of the matter is, it's better than Ramondre Stevenson, who averaged 0.8 yards per carry in this game, who only got 31% of the snaps. I think Travion's a guy there. I'm going to rank him aggressively. He's in this tier. I think he's a mid to high end running back 2 rest of the year. And I think he should have been more efficient versus Cincinnati. That's just my 2 cents. I think there are still warning signs there, but I do think you have to have him in this D tier, along with Quinshon and Breece Hall. Obviously, Breece, the fumble late killed him. He was heading for a touchdown there. Ended his day, though, with 13.9 points against Baltimore. Atlanta, tough matchup next week. Go to the E tier here. DeAndre Swift. Swifty, it's not like he's losing significant snaps. He did have took 45% of snaps and had 8 carries and 1 target in this game. When you're looking at Kyle Monangai in this game, he actually had more carries. He had 12 carries, didn't have any targets, but did have the touchdown in this game, had 8 points. It's becoming pretty hard to start at either of these guys. I'm actually going to move DeAndre Swift down a little bit here and move him behind Jaylen Warren and maybe Kenneth Walker. Warren had a solid day, 12, 13 points, and had a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, this one's interesting because we're going to kind of monitor this down the stretch, but his snap share, 63% in this last week, week 12 against the Tennessee Titans, his highest of the season. Didn't have a touchdown, still had 13 points after coming off a 20-point game against the Rams defense the week before. But again, it's the increased snap share for Kenneth Walker in 11 carries compared to Zach Charbonnet, who in this game wasn't getting as many carries, only had 6 carries in this game. And so maybe it's Kenneth Walker's backfield now. I don't know. You're going to get good weeks from him. He's running back 2 for me. We've got Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, again, the Minnesota Vikings offense just continues to be abysmal, and whether you want to blame that on J.J. McCarthy or not is up to you. At 8 points, that's his floor. It's fine. It's a high enough floor. Woody Marks as well. Woody Marks looks like the running back 1 still in the Houston Texans offense. Of course, week 12, he had 8 points against Buffalo, still running about 70% of snaps and had 16 carries, just no touchdowns and hardly any targets in this game. But you're talking low end running back 2, high end running back 3 at this point. RJ Harvey, kind of the same thing in the Denver offense. We'll see if he can get it going there and actually become like a touchdown machine. F tier, we'll start with Alvin Kamara. I moved him down a tier because of the MCL sprain. We don't really have a timeline with him. Trey Benson, David Montgomery, Tyron Tracy, and Kyle Monangai. Trey Benson's coming back. He could easily jump up a tier if he comes back and looks good. Monty, it's going to be either 20 points or none. And you got to decide which type of week it is for Monty. Tyron Tracy, again, I don't feel super comfortable with Tyron Tracy, but I will say at least his last 2 weeks, 17 and 16 points, 19 and 20 carries, and 4 targets in each of these games. I'm probably going to move Tracy up. I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't be in the E tier. So Tracy on the graphic will be in the E tier. You'll see it there. I'll just talk about him now, but I have him too low, to be honest with you. So I'm going to move him up. The volume is pretty good for him. And Kyle Monangai, I mentioned, I have him in this tier because he is getting the touchdowns there in Chicago. And so he's like 10 points per game right now, which is nice. And then a ginormous G tier of guys, Gainwell, Ramondre, Zach Sharp, all guys they're backups. You don't really want to use them, but if they're plug and play options, if you have to use them, you can. So that'll do for the running backs, and let's pivot over to wide receivers now. I've got JSN in a tier of his own for wide receivers. And mind you, these are my rankings and not Nathan and I's combined rankings this week because Nate is sick. I've got JSN in a tier of his own. He is a clear tier, 2 or 3 points per game above everybody else. There's not a single wide receiver in fantasy football I would take over him rest of the season, so that constitutes him being in his own tier. So I'm going to have him in his own tier. A tier, Puka and Jamar Chase. I would take them over the rest of the field pretty comfortably, so I've got them in their own tier, both averaging 20 or more points per game right now. Jamar Chase revenge ain't coming this week, and we're going to take down Mason. The B tier is pretty big for me now, and this is what everybody's here to see. Everybody's skipping in the video to come see the B tier of my rankings. And again, these are my rankings. But yeah, I am going to move George Pickens up. I get it now. I get it. I understand. And plus, he's averaging 20 points per game. I mean, like, I don't know what else you would freaking want. Now, the hard part is like the separation of the tiers here. Do I put Amon-Ra, Rice, and Pickens in their own tier and then cut it and do Lamb, Adams, London, and Nico, or are they all in one big tier? I'm just going to go one big tier here. So I'm going to start with Amon-Ra St. Brown, averaging 20 a game. He's the wide receiver 3 on the year. He's been fantastic this year. He's been so good on a great offense. Rashee Rice, averaging 20 points per game. Fantastic. Mahomes clearly trusts him a lot. He had his highest yardage mark of the season, cooked the Colts secondary. Then I've got George Pickens as my wide receiver 6 right now. He is the wide receiver 2 in fantasy football on the season, averaging 20 points per game right now. In an offense with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens has been outproducing him. So I'm going to put them in the same tier back-to-back because everybody knows what CeeDee Lamb is capable of. And if I had to guess, I think that CeeDee Lamb down the stretch here in the season will end up being just as productive as George Pickens. But why do I have to guess? I'm just going to put them both in the same tier. I'm going to put them back-to-back at 6 and 7. So Pickens is a top 6 wide receiver for me the rest of the season. He's elite. He's up here with the elite guys. I mean, if you wanted to put any of Amon-Ra, Rashee Rice, or George Pickens in the A tier, I guess I don't blame you. I personally would take Puka and Chase over those guys, but I don't blame you at the top of these wide receiver rankings. You can do whatever you want, and I totally feel comfortable. It doesn't really matter how you value these guys rest of the season. You're past your trade deadline. If you have one of these guys on your team, congratulations, you're starting them every single week, right? Devontae Adams, a wide receiver 6 in the season. He never ages. Drake London's a wide receiver 7 on the season still. And we'll just see with the injury with Drake London. And obviously the Penix injury really hurts him in my opinion. And then Nico Collins, trying to turn it on as of late, but he did, get a little bit. I think he got the wind knocked out of him in his last game on Thursday night. But I had a more disappointing Thursday night. We'll see if he can kind of maintain that. The C tier is a baby tier. Emeka Egbuka and Justin Jefferson. 2 guys with crazy upside that are both averaging around 14 points per game right now, and they could easily drop 25 any given week on Emeka Egbuka on a good offense, but you don't have Baker Mayfield. Justin Jefferson on a bad offense with a bad quarterback. And so they're kind of, but they're a clear tier above, in my opinion, the guys in the D tier here. Chris Olave, I'm going to start with in the D tier, averaging 15 points per game. He's been awesome. Olave, Waddle, Ted McMillan, and Michael Pittman are your high-end wide receiver 2s here that I feel very comfortable with rest of season. Romo Dunze, Lad McConkey, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and T. Higgins. Nothing to really highlight in this tier. I've moved Ted up quite a bit because he has been pretty solid as of recent, and so I think it's worth giving him a little bit of a bump in the rankings if you can. And so I've got him as my wide receiver 15 rest of the season. I think he's, he's top 10 in yardage, and he's currently the wide receiver 12 in fantasy football right now. Nothing really to highlight in this tier. I will say DJ Moore had a big game, and Romo Dunze, on the other hand, he just continues to be very, very hit or miss. Mostly miss recently. Had 9 targets in this game, but only had 8 points in this game, and so it's just not great for Rome recently. 8.3 points. He's the wide receiver 18 on the season now. It's exactly where I'm ranked. Lad, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was the more productive wide receiver this week. I think they both have great rest of season schedules. I like both of them a lot. In fact, I would probably take both of them over Romo Dunze at this point and Lad McConkey, so I'm going to put them both above and put Lad McConkey at 19. I'll have T. Higgins on here as well. However, I didn't hear anything else about the T. Higgins injury. I'm going to look and see if there's been any news on it today. He's not playing this week, actually. Oh, he has a concussion. I didn't realize that. I'm going to move T. Higgins down 1 tier since you are losing him for a game rest of the season, and right now that's really valuable, so he'll start the E tier for us. He's Stephon Diggs. Marvin Harrison Jr., I expect to be back this week. Stephon Diggs has been consistent. Marvin Harrison Jr., we haven't had an update. That was 21 minutes ago. He had appendicitis. Hopefully he plays this week. If not, I would have to move him down my rest of the season rankings. Zay Flowers, 12 points every week. You know what you're getting. Wan'Dale Robinson, though, 13.6 points per game. You can make an argument for Wan'Dale to be much higher than this. You could even put him at the top of this tier. In fact, I'll put him at wide receiver 22. I'll be aggressive. Wan'Dale's a must-start every week, and he's the wide receiver 10. He's the wide receiver 10 on the season, guys. Wan'Dale is somebody you should not be sleeping on. And, I think you can rank him anywhere. The problem, he's wide receiver 10 because they haven't had their bye week yet. But coming off of a 30-point game where I had to play him in the Flock League, it was kind of miserable playing against him. And then Debo, obviously the quarterback situation's up in the air there. The F tier is going to start with J-Mo, who's had a really nice bounce back here later in the season. Hopefully it continues with Jameson Williams. Obviously in this last game, he didn't do anything for you. He had 0 points on 3 targets in the Giants game. But the 3 games before that, 16, 23, and 19 points. So, which Jameson Williams is going to prevail? Look, it's not every week that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have 55 points. And so I think Jamo's fine. I've still been encouraged with what I've seen from him. BTJ, Garrett Wilson, obviously battling injuries. DK has been very hit or miss and kind of sucks. Cortland Sutton has been bad this year. And Khalil Shakir, he's hit or miss, but, you got to put him on here. And then I'm going to go through these next two tiers pretty quickly here. Quentin Johnson, Troy Franklin. I like Troy Franklin. I think he's an upside play. Addison, he'll get you zeros with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. Like, that's the problem. Alec Pierce had a rougher game this week. Ricky Pearsall continues to be very hit or miss. Keenan Allen, Romeo Doubs, Xavier Worthy, and Juwan Jennings, you don't know what you're getting from every week. And then like the streamable guy, you know what? I know everybody's going to get mad at me. I'll put Michael Wilson in this tier as well. I think you can put Michael Wilson anywhere in this tier. It depends on how long Marv is out. If Marv's out for an extended period of time, I could put him as high as 35. I'll put Michael Wilson at 35 just so, you put him anywhere in the G tier. I don't even care. The H tier, though, Terry McLaurin, Josh Downs, DJ Moore coming off a big week that I don't think will stick, but I think is a great week. Parker Washington, Tez Johnson, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. And I'm going to put Tim DK in here as well. I picked him up off of waivers in the Flock League. He scored me 21 points in my flex spot. And without Alec Iomanner there and without Calvin Ridley there, like he had 7 targets in this game. And so I like Jim DK. And then a bunch of guys you don't want to start after that. So we'll stop right there for wide receivers. And then we'll go through tight ends and quarterbacks real quick. S tier is going to be Trey McBride by himself. Nobody's in a tier with Trey McBride. He's averaging 4 more points than Brock Bowers on a per-game basis this year. Trey McBride is in a league of his own from a production standpoint. And then in the A tier, Brock Bowers and George Kittle, who I would take over the rest of the field at tight end. Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, Travis Kelce, again, they're my B tier. And, each of them has their ups, their downs. But, these are the tight ends 2, 3, and 4 on the year. Obviously, Bowers and Kittle missed time. That's why they're not there. But these guys have all performed at a similar level. 13.3, 13.4, and 13.7 points per game. And they're kind of in their own tier from a production standpoint this year, from where they finished this year. And in my opinion, that's how they'll finish the season. In the C tier, Aronde Gadsden, Dallas Goedert, Dalton Kincaid. And then 2 guys I think are very slept on right now, Hunter Henry and Juwan Johnson. Both guys that, the Flock guys have ranked in the 15 to 17 range, and these are guys that they're the tight ends 5 and 6 on the season. They've been good pretty much all year. I don't see any reason not to have them ranked as low-end tight end ones rest of the season. The D tier, another guy I think people are too low on, Theo Johnson. When Jackson Dart comes back, he's been really good with Dart, and he had 10 points this week with Jameis, so I think he's solid. Colston Loveland, a guy I think people are a little bit too high on. I think Loveland is great. I like Colston Loveland, and he obviously had a good game this last week, 14 points, but he's going to be a little bit more hit or miss, and the target volume wasn't crazy. He had a touchdown in this game. So I think Loveland's fine, but I do prefer like a Hunter Henry, Juwan Johnson over Colston Loveland right now rest of the season. I know it's not sexy, but like they're just scoring more points than the guy on almost every given week. I mean, even Hunter Henry doubled his points. So this week, Harold Fant, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, Zach Ertz, AJ Barnett, David Njoku, and Dalton Schultz. And I'm going to stop at the D tier there because it gets really gross after that. Then touching on quarterbacks real quick. Josh Allen in a tier of his own. He's in a tier of his own from a production standpoint at this point. He's the quarterback 23 points a game, and he can win you any given week. Lamar, who I still have Lamar up here, like, because you have to, but realistically, I think he should probably be at the bottom of this tier because he's been not good recently from a fantasy perspective. Just not been scoring fantasy points, but you know the upside he has, right? Drake May, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes in this tier. Mahomes had 18 points with no touchdowns this week, and so he still continues to 270 passing yards per game right now is, I think, the highest mark in the league still. So, like, Mahomes is still very productive. B tier, Dak Prescott, quarterback 6 in the year. Matthew Stafford, quarterback 5 in the year. Both pocket passing guys that don't have the rushing upside that the guys above do, but they've been performing as top 6 quarterbacks so far. Jackson Dart, who from a points per game standpoint, when he's been the starter, has been a quarterback 1. Justin Herbert, who's the quarterback 9, and then Joe Burrow, who slates to come back this week, I have as my quarterback 10 rest of season. In the C tier, Caleb Williams, Daniel Jones, and Bo Nix. They're the quarterbacks 7, 8, and 10 respectively on the season, and so they're kind of in that tier by themselves. I'll put Jared Goff in there, who's the quarterback 11, averaging 17.5 points a game as well. And then these are kind of the banged up tier. Baker is banged up. Jaden Daniels is banged up. I've got both of them here. I don't know when they're going to be back. With Baker, it's an AC joint sprain. With Jaden Daniels, obviously, his elbow was sticking out of the wrong place. So I've got him here. Brock Purdy still, I mean, who knows? Brock Purdy could really, really turn it around. They're playing again right now as we speak. And right now, Brock Purdy has 6 points against the Carolina Panthers. So it just depends on which Brock Purdy you get every week. Jacoby Brissett's a really underrated fantasy asset, in my opinion. Every week he's been the starter. He's been really solid in this last week. Again, he still had 18 points. But listen, since he's been the starter, 21-19, 24-19, 23-18. Jacoby, I mean, he threw the ball 49 times against Jacksonville. 57 the week before. Jacoby's kind of a start right now, in my opinion. I just, you got to hope that he's healthy the rest of the season. And then all the guys past that, I'd probably say Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love and Sam Darnold, the guys I'd want to start after that. And then it gets really ugly. So there you go. Again, these are my rest of season rankings. Nate is sick. I appreciate you guys watching, though. Let me know who I have too high, too low. Again, these aren't gospel truth. It's just me putting together a list of guys I would prefer rest of season. There are definitely moves that could be made here, and so I'm happy to hear them in comments. Drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed as well if you play fantasy football. I appreciate you guys. Very thankful for you. We'll have your matchup videos split into 2 this week for the beginning games and the end games, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We appreciate you. We'll see you here soon.